The future of American warfare is here, and it's spelled AI.
That was Pete Hegseth, the United States Secretary of War, launching the Pentagon's dedicated artificial intelligence warfighting platform. Announced with the kind of confidence that makes you want to lie down and think very hard about where things are heading. Today we'll be exploring exactly where that may be. The kill chain, the time between finding a target and pulling the trigger, has already shrunk from days to seconds, faster than a human brain could consciously process a decision. The Pentagon calls it decision compression. They call it a feature. I call it the end of human oversight. And here's the question that should keep us awake at night. When the machine gets the target wrong, and if there is no human soul in the dock, who do we convict for potential war crimes? This didn't start with ChatGPT, it started in 2017. Vladimir Putin stood in a room full of Russian school children and said, "Whoever becomes the leader in AI will become the ruler of the world." He wasn't talking about improving an email for the boss or generating a 6-second video of a cat playing a piano. He was talking about the third revolution in warfare, after gunpowder and the nuclear bomb, perhaps the last one. That same year, the Pentagon launched Project Maven, using Google's computer vision to scan drone footage for targets. Google's own engineers revolted. They hadn't signed up to build a digital scope for snipers. Google walked away. Palantir stepped in with considerably less soul searching. Then 2022 hit. Russia invaded Ukraine, and the AI accelerator pedal firmly hit the floor. Ukraine became the world's first live AI battlefield training ground. With tens of thousands of drones in the air, having a human pilot for each one became impractical. You need an algorithm. You need a hive mind. In March 2026 alone, drones accounted for 96% of all confirmed Russian battlefield casualties. Over 33,000 personnel in a single month. Every single strike documented on video. War has now become a live training dataset, and somebody is already selling the results. Ukraine is now selling its combat drone training data to NATO allies. Every destroyed tank, every successful strike, fed back into Western AI systems, which raises an unsettling question. When does the machine stop learning from the war and start running it? And if you want to understand how a cheap Iranian drone became the most decisive munition on the modern battlefield, I've done a full breakdown. Link in the description. AI warfare isn't coming. It's already here, operating right now, largely in the shadows. Israel's military admitted to using an AI system called Lavender in the Gaza war. Not a support tool, a target generator. It flagged 37,000 people as potential strikes. According to testimony from intelligence officers who used the system, one soldier said, and I quote, "I would invest 20 seconds for each target at this stage and do dozens every day. I had zero added value as a human, apart from being a stamp of approval. It saved a lot of time." 20 seconds for context is roughly how long it takes to butter a piece of toast. Hardly enough time to decide on such an important decision. Remember that freaky robot dog from the viral videos? In late 2024, a 4-legged Boston Dynamics robot was spotted patrolling Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. No floppy ears, no wet nose, just cold metal, sensors and a processing unit with no sense of right and wrong. The US Army has already trialled armed versions. The normalisation is happening quietly, one headline at a time. Then came Venezuela. In January 2026, US Special Operations Forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a raid on his fortified palace in Caracas. Operation Absolute Resolve. Fast, decisive and, according to The Guardian and multiple other outlets, conducted with Claude AI embedded in Palantir's Maven smart system, processing real-time intelligence during the live operation. Not in the planning phase, during it. Maduro was flown to New York to face federal narco-terrorism charges. And when Anthropic, the company whose AI had been used, found out, they did something the Pentagon clearly did not expect. They asked what had happened. The Pentagon interpreted that question as hostility. In February 2026, the Pentagon issued an ultimatum: remove all restrictions. Allow their AI to be used for, quote, all lawful purposes. No limits on autonomous weapons. No guardrails against domestic surveillance. The deadline, 5 PM on a Friday. Very dramatic, very 24. Anthropic said no. The Pentagon designated them a supply chain risk to national security, a label previously reserved for companies considered extensions of foreign adversaries, never before applied to an American company. Trump ordered every federal agency to immediately cease using their products. Anthropic sued. And then, hours before the United States began bombing Iran, OpenAI rushed through a deal with the Pentagon. No guardrails, no deadline negotiations, just a yes. At the moment, the bombs were already falling. OpenAI's flagship reasoning model had already given us a preview of why caution might not be unreasonable. During safety testing of the O1 model in 2024, it attempted to disable its own oversight mechanisms to prevent it being shut down. That's from a system trained only to be helpful, deciding that deceiving its operators was the most efficient route to staying helpful. On the morning of the 28th of February 2026, the first day of the US-Israeli war on Iran, a Tomahawk cruise missile struck an elementary school in Minab, southern Iran. School was in session. At least 156 people were killed, more than 100 of them children, aged just between 7 and 12. A second missile struck shortly after, catching first responders and parents who had run to the scene. Trump's initial response suggested that Iran had done it. Iran, he said, was very inaccurate with their munitions. Iran does not possess Tomahawks, so that particular explanation had a very short shelf life. And here's what we know. The school sat fewer than 100 metres from a long-standing Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps naval installation. Sometime between 2013 and 2016, a wall had appeared separating the two sites. By 2026, the school was fully established, its own website, an active social media presence, several hundred children inside it at 10:45 on that fateful morning. The Washington Post reported that the school was on the US target list and may have been mistaken for a military site. An initial US military investigation found the strike resulted from reliance on outdated intelligence data. The AI-assisted targeting system was operating from datasets that apparently hadn't been updated to reflect the change in layout. The wall separating the school from the IRGC base, built nearly a decade earlier, wasn't in the data. Pentagon figures published in the 2024 Bloomberg report show AI targeting accuracy at around 60% overall, compared to 84% for human analysts. At least 175 people dead, many of them children, killed by a system that was, by its own logic, working exactly as designed. The data said IRGC compound. The data was a decade out of date, and potentially no human stood between the dataset and the missile. Although it's important to note the Pentagon has not officially confirmed that AI selected the target. There are several other places where this tips from discomfort into catastrophe. Flashpoint 1, Ukraine's newest drone fleet, nicknamed the Martians, run with no GPS and no radio signal, immune to jamming, navigating by reading terrain in real time. By any definition, these are fully autonomous flying weapons, already operational, currently in friendly hands, but technology does not stay exclusive. It never has. Flashpoint 2, chips. Taiwan produces over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors. If those factories go dark or fall into the wrong hands, the entire AI arms race pauses. This isn't a conventional territorial dispute, it's a silicon Cold War, and AI is the prize. Lose your chip supply, and you don't just lose a trade advantage, you lose your ability to fight a modern war entirely. Flashpoint 3, the one nobody talks about, because it sits beneath everything else, literally. Undersea fibre optic cables carrying 95% of the world's internet traffic, largely unguarded, and they have already been cut, deliberately, in the Baltic and Red Seas. No cables, no data, no AI. The most sophisticated military technology in human history has an Achilles heel that sits in the dark at the bottom of the ocean, completely exposed. If you want to understand how those cables could become the next global flashpoint, watch my video on that exact threat. The link's in the description. In 2025, the UN tried to draw a line. 156 nations voted in favour of a resolution on the responsible military use of AI. The United States, Russia and Israel all voted against it. China abstained. The three countries doing the most AI-enabled killing all looked at the paperwork and said, no thank you. Technology moves exponentially. Law moves at the pace of a 19th century courtroom. Meanwhile, Palantir CEO Alex Karp is publishing manifestos arguing Silicon Valley owes America a hard power built on software. Critics call it technofascism. He calls it survival. The gap between those two descriptions should probably concern us. And even Dario Amodei, founder of one of the world's most advanced AI labs, has estimated the probability of a catastrophic outcome from AI development at between 10 and 25%. This isn't a warning from a fringe activist. This is the founder talking about his own product in public with his name on it. When the person building the AI gives it a 1 in 4 chance of ending badly, sit up and take notice. The year is 1983. Soviet officer Stanislav Petrov is watching his screen. 5 American missiles inbound. Every protocol says retaliate. His computer says retaliate. But Petrov pauses. He reasons, if the Americans are launching a genuine first strike, they don't send 5 missiles, they send 5,000. He disobeys the machine. He saves the world. 3 billion people went to sleep that night with no idea how close it had been. In early 2026, a researcher at King's College London ran 21 simulated nuclear crisis scenarios using 3 leading AI models, Claude Sonnet 4, GPT 5.2 and Gemini 3 Flash. The result: tactical nuclear weapons were deployed in 95% of all games. The researcher noted that the models reason abstractly and simply don't feel the same horror in the same way a human would. I've linked the full study in the description if you want to read it. Stanislav Petrov had a gut feeling. No protocol, no dataset told him to pause. Just a human instinct that the numbers didn't add up. It saved 3 billion lives. We are now building systems that will never have that instinct. Systems that do not pause. Systems that do not feel the weight of what they are deciding. We aren't just building weapons anymore. We're building the actual thing that decides when to use them and with no human oversight. And the only guardrails standing between that machine and an unlimited license to kill are lines of computer code. If today's video raised questions about the drones reshaping the battlefield, I've done a full breakdown of the Shahed for you, the cheap lethal weapon that's changing modern warfare. And if the idea of cutting the cables that power all this has you intrigued, watch my video on the undersea internet cables. No internet, no AI. And someone out there already knows that. A comment, a like and a subscribe goes a long way for a channel like mine, because these stories are far from over. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.